Happy Sunday, everybody. Glad to be back. Glad to see you here with me. And thank you so much for being on time. As you guys know, drop your location so that I can shout you out. I'm excited for tonight's show because we had a bunch of questions submitted this week and I have a couple of clips to go over. Hopefully my audio works the way I hope so. Y'all, techie is not my thing. Tech is not my thing. But let me know where you're watching from so I can shout you out. A couple of things that I want to get into. If you don't know, if this is your first time watching, you can submit questions to me via my Instagram page. Just DM me and say, hey sis, I got a question for the live stream. And if possible, I will put it into my show for that upcoming Sunday. All right. So it's super easy. Oh, shout out to Tabby. We have her in Dallas. Hey, love. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm impressed because I know it is, what is it called? Playoffs? NFL playoffs. I live under a rock and I'm not a big sports person, so I just found out this morning and I was telling my buddy, I was like, we're probably going to have a lot of women watching today as opposed to guys, unless, well, I guess I shouldn't stereotype and say women aren't sports fans, but probably have more women than men tonight. The next thing that I want to go over quickly, if you don't know, now you know, I've got 2 books. I have one for the guys, Why Women Love Assholes, and that teaches you the psychology of what women like in men so that you can stop crying about being a good guy who finishes last and understand what it is that is so intoxicating about the bad boy. The traits themselves are not bad, it's the intention behind it. So use it for good. The other one is First Date 101. This is a man's guide to dating a man because I got the information straight out of the horse's mouth. I interviewed over 1,000 men and asked them what they loved and didn't like about first dates, and I compiled it into a nice, neat little easy-to-read guide. Shout out to Will. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for the rose. I like it. All right, so let's see. Oh, the other thing that I want to mention, okay, those of you who have been watching for a while know that I have done a slight shift with my content lately. Not so much a shift, but an added to. I have incorporated a lot more spiritual discussions, and I've been really impressed by the number of believers who have been following me and engaging. And so it has been on my heart to do a Bible study. And so I'm going to be sending out an email in the next couple of days to let people know when we're going to be doing that and take a poll to see when is the best day and time, because this is brand new. But I'm really excited, and I'm going to get into that a little bit more at the end of the show. But make sure that you are on my email list. You can grab the link from the description in this video. Also, y'all, I was ready early for today's show, so I went ahead and put the questions down below. Usually I do it after the show, but it's actually there for everyone watching it live. So if you've submitted a question, you'll be able to see what number you are, okay? So it's there. Hey, Antonio, I love it. He's saying hello to everyone. So I'm excited that y'all are excited about the Bible study, okay? All right, so let's see here. Let's just get into it. Let's get into question number 1. And if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and smash that like button. Okay. All right, guys, let me get my stuff set up here. All right. Question number 1. Okay, so question number 1. It's been 2 years since I walked away from an abusive relationship with the children's father. I had to work on myself and unlearn all the negative stuff I took away from the relationship. I also realized that I allowed myself to stay in a relationship that was unequally yoked from the beginning, and I knew it. As human beings, we all have problems, but I find a lot of us carry childhood trauma into our relationship, for example. Into our relationship. For example, dad not being in the home to encourage and help water his son's growth from a boy to a man. Therefore, we often find a lot of grown men out here acting like boys, still living out their teenage years in their 30s and 40s, and likewise some women as well. So, my question is, do you believe we all need relationship or personal counseling before entering relationships, i.e. the courting stage? I believe that the reason a lot of relationships don't work is because people have a lot of healing that needs to be done. Shout out to Aaron in Fairfield, California. Nice. Thank you for tuning in. I think that a lot of people come in and they are missing something. They don't feel whole. And so they are hoping and searching for someone to fill that void. And that's why a lot of times there's this imbalance and codependent relationships and a lot of toxic relationships, because you're looking for something externally that you should have had internally. And so whatever way you get to the place of being whole, I am big time recommending it. Whether it is therapy, whether it is talking to people who have been in relationships. Of course, the number one thing I'm going to do is say to seek God. If you pray and read your word, he covers so much of the stuff that you would be going through, but sometimes it's nice to hear it in, modern day terms and clinical terms and things like that, which is why I try to take the scripture and use it to give biblical advice that is easy to understand in 2022. So I definitely say that you should get that prior to dating, because it's really not fair to the person that you're dating. I'll give you one example. I have two separate friends of mine. One was on the receiving end and one was on the giving end, but of insecurity. There was this major, massive distrust for men because of issues in the past. And so now there is a limiting belief that all men are like this. All men are not trustworthy. And so in one case, the person was the one who wasn't trusting, and it, really jeopardized the relationship that she had with a guy. The other one was the guy receiving this, and he was explaining how tiring it was, having to constantly check in and show footage and photos and affirming that he really was there, or proving that he really was where he said he was. And that's just unnecessary. That's going above and beyond what is normal. In a relationship, maybe you could just say, hey, I'm going to be out and about. I'll probably check in with you around 6. That would be normal to say, hey, just try to get an idea of when I'll touch base with you. But to say, I need you to keep checking in and will prove to me, can you bring something home to show me? Like, that's too much. And that's a sign of not being healed. When your mind is racing, when you have emotions that cannot be controlled, that's a pretty good indication that there's some work to be done. So I would say to hold off and not date, because that's a little selfish to do that before you've gotten that together. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Looking back, realized that I really had no business dating, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you get in a situation and realize you're missing something. So it's hard to do it perfectly, but just when you realize it, do yourself a favor and get some help. But definitely get a mentor. Like I said, get therapy, get something. Thank you to everybody who has smashed that like button. I really appreciate that so much. And also make sure that you comment your location so I can shout you out. All right, so let's get to question number 2. All right, so let's see here. Sorry, y'all. I'll be trying to multitask over here. All right, so question number 2, and as I mentioned before, I have the questions written down in the description right now, so you guys can see it as we go. If you submitted your question, you know when it's coming up. Number 2, I have a question based on single mothers who have found their way to Christ and are still wanting to abstain from sex before marriage. My question is it possible for her to maintain a relationship with a man and still abstain because she can't hide the fact she had sex? There is a stigma, and men act like your request to abstain is unreasonable. Are there men who will abstain? If you have been following me on Instagram, excuse me, I did a couple of posts this week about abstinence and men having the assumption that, he should be able to get with this woman. And a lot of times when abstinence is brought up, men will be quick to say, is she still a virgin? And usually, in my opinion, it's just for the sake of argument, because a lot of men's argument is that if she's not a virgin, she doesn't deserve to abstain, as though it's like a broken jar. It just is what it is. From a biblical perspective, you're keeping yourself chaste, you're keeping yourself from fornicating is done to glorify God, because you understand that your physical body is the temple for his spirit. He said he's going to give us a spirit. And if you've read in the Old Testament, he did not play with his tabernacle. There were people who dedicated their lives to him, and because they did something wrong, they were struck down just because he's so holy. But even though we're living in the New Testament and people aren't getting struck down like that, it doesn't change his sacredness. So when women are waking up and realizing, wow, I have just been mistreating this temple of the Most High God, I want to honor it. It sounds silly then to say, well, did you ever dishonor it in the past? And I gave that example to say, let's just say I walked my dog down this path every single day, and the dog had a favorite spot to, relieve himself. But if I found out one day it was a burial ground for somebody, out of honor and respect, I wouldn't continue to let the dog do that. Now, whatever I did in the past, either out of ignorance or whatever, that has nothing to do with the fact that now that I know, I'm not going to keep doing it. That's just the most ridiculous argument. Let's see. He said, so true. You don't know what you don't know. Thank you for the engagement, you guys. Excuse me. Okay. Thank you for the applause. I always say it's weird talking to a camera. So when you guys engage through emojis and comments, it's really nice. But to answer your question, are there men who will abstain? Definitely, 100%. Now, are they going to be in the majority? Most likely not, because we see what this world has come to, and most people don't want to do anything that deprives themselves at all. Whether it is physical working out, if it deprives them of their sleep or, keeps them, they feel bored, they're not going to do it. They're not going to deprive themselves of food, even if they know it's bad for them. So we don't live in a time where a lot of people practice a lot of self-control. So I'm not shocked at all to see that there are people who are not abstaining. And even within the Christian community, a lot of people are not abstaining, and it's not because they just don't care. They actually feel horrible about what they're doing, but they don't know how to harness the Holy Spirit. A lot of these people have not read the Bible for themselves, and so they have no idea the tools that are available to them. And that's why one of the reasons why I want to do the Bible studies for people who maybe haven't had a chance to read the scripture all the way through and don't understand it. And that way, if you get the word of God inside you, if someone else tries to teach you something that is not according to the word of God, you're going to have a little light bulb that goes off like, that's not in the word, or that could contradict scripture. So yes, don't be discouraged. There still are men who will abstain. I have met people who are willing to abstain. When I got married, I let my husband know, my at the time soon to be husband, know that I was a virgin and I wanted to abstain until marriage. And he had absolutely no issue honoring my request. It wasn't even a conversation. There was no rebuttal, nothing. It was cool. That's your decision. Cool. Let's see. The other thing I want to say is regarding premarital sex. A lot of times, people have made this thing so it's not a big deal. Premarital sex is no big deal. But for those who are believers, you have to understand that this is something that will cut you off from God, because there are certain things that because of his perfection, he cannot coexist with. So the grace is that we don't get cut off from him permanently, but we will not have fellowship with him. It's kind of like if I have a friend who's doing something that's really, really dangerous, I'm not going to bring my children around because there's a chance that, they're going to be affected. And it's a weird example because it's not 100% the same, but I can't compare myself, who's not perfect, to a God who's perfect. So this is the best that I can do. But he is not going to be in the same communion with you when you have that ongoing sin. So that is not something you want to take lightly. Tabby says, some men truly want substance and want to get to know you, to save from another toxic relationship blinded by sex. Yes, there's so much evidence proven that sex has an effect on you chemically, especially as a woman. I don't know how much it affects men, but sex for a woman really, really affects her chemicals. And so she can become almost like drunk in her emotions when it comes to that. So it's a big deal when you're opening up that portal. Susie says, that's awesome. I love it. Okay. So what I would say is pray for your guy. I did a live stream the other day saying, instead of being all mad at these men, focus on your person that you want to marry one day and pray for him, because he's living in 2022 also. He has the same temptation. He has the same struggles. He has the same influence and things like that. Antonio says, is this dating advice only for believers? No, it applies to everybody. But I'm going to give the even before I became open about my beliefs, I was giving biblical advice. So I'm just being more bold with it in disclosing where I get my beliefs from, because it's just wise. It's just wise counsel. So whether you believe in Jesus Christ or not, it's still wise counsel. There have been studies to show that having sex with multiple partners leads to certain cancers. Obviously, we know about STDs. We know about HIV and AIDS. We know about unplanned pregnancies. And I just mentioned the chemical stuff. So all of this stuff just gives further evidence. You don't have to be religious. I use that word jokingly, religious, for this stuff to make sense. So I hope that answers your question. Caroline says soul ties. Yes, 100%. Let's see. Yeah. So that's what I say about that. Definitely pray for that guy. I believe you can find him. And if you don't have a person, and like I said, these guys are not dropping down from the sky in droves. So have a life, have things that you're passionate about and that you're interested in, so that you're not trying to just kind of hold your breath until you meet this guy. Because I think that's the thing that's frustrating. If you have very high standards, I say high according to today's standards, if you have very high standards, it's easy to feel discouraged because you're not getting a date every Saturday. If you cut it off with one guy, you might not get another guy who's eligible for like 6 to 8 months or maybe longer, right? So I don't run into tons of eligible guys. So you have to have something else that sustains your interest. Otherwise, you're going to get super discouraged. Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Shout out to you. Hey. But this stuff is, this is the big deal. All right. So we're going to go on to number 3. Shout out to everybody who submitted questions this week. Thank you so much. Number 3, I've been dating a guy for a year and now I'm engaged. When we started dating, we were both on the same page. Neither of us wanted any more kids. I'm just 4 years out from being an empty nester. Now, after the engagement, he's talking about having kids. Should this be a deal breaker or not? Do I sacrifice 18 more years of my life just to sacrifice 18 more years of my life, put my plans on retirement aside to start momming again because of love? So I kind of feel bad saying this, but because it might seem like it's not too helpful, but honestly, only you can answer that. Only you can answer that. And I say this to say, we have to really, really be honest with ourselves. A lot of times, and I'm not saying you're not, but a lot of cases, people will say things because they're so intoxicated by the feeling of love and they're so excited about getting married that they're not realistic about what they're capable of doing. I know for me, I was so excited to get married and I really didn't think through, what I really could do. And I described my mom. I described this person who is like so diehard, cooking, cleaning. She's like June Cleaver. And I never stopped to think about, do I even keep my room clean? When I was at home or when I had a roommate when I was in college, have I ever cooked? Like, I didn't really stop and think about it. And no, it's not the exact same thing, but you have to really be realistic and say, is this something that I can really do? Because you don't want to be resentful down the line. You don't want to resent him. You don't want to resent the child. Not saying that it makes you a bad mom. It's just, that's just honest. If you didn't, it's so much work being a mom. And so if you didn't choose to do that next time around, you could have some tough feelings. And then if you don't have kids, but he really, really wants them, he could be resentful. So that is something that you guys really need to talk through, because someone is going to have to compromise. He's either not going to get more kids or you're going to have more kids. But that's something that you really, 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 really need to be honest with yourself about. And if you say that it is a deal breaker for you, all you could do is see how he reacts. But you got to be true to yourself. And if you decide to compromise, you absolutely need to stick with that. You cannot, treat him any kind of way afterwards and be resentful. She says, I'm open to dating, but I've been practicing abstinence for about 6 years. It'll be 7 in November. How do I get back into the dating life? I'm 28 and I don't know how to date anymore. I'm scared. Oh man. Make sure you submit that to because my schedule's gonna be really full today. I have 10 questions plus 2 bonus. So if I can, I'll answer that. But if I don't answer it today, please put it in my DM for Instagram so that I can put it on next week's show for sure. Okay. He said, yeah, sacrifice sounds like she doesn't want any more kids. Should I sacrifice 18 more years? Yeah, basically, because you can't be selfish when you, and I use that term loosely, you can't be selfish when you have a kid. Everything is dictated around your children. So you can't just go travel. You can't, decide to downsize and go live somewhere, like you have to consider your kids always. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing one way or the other. It's just someone's truth. Okay, so let's see. Oh, perfect. I'm glad you did. I don't know how to pronounce your name, lover. I would say it. Okay, so number 4, we are cranking right along. How are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing pretty good. Okay, so number 4, I'm probably looking too much into this, but I have a friend in his mid-30s. He got married and he said in his vows that he knew the day he met her, he wanted to marry her. But he also waited 3 years to pop the question, which makes me wonder, if you knew from day one you wanted to marry this person, why wait 3 years to propose to her? He was financially stable at the time. Anyway, nothing was holding him back. So why wait 3 years to ask her to marry you if you already knew 3 years in advance? Hey, Christine. So, fellas, I want you guys to answer this question as I'm answering it. Tell me why, if you knew someone, if you wanted to marry that person day one, why would you take 3 years? Okay. And I'd be interested to see, because I'm just speculating. Obviously, I'm not a woman. I'm not a man. Here's the thing. From what I have heard, marriage is a very, very big deal to men. Not that it's not a big deal to women, but for women, it's more so like, I don't want to say a rescuing, but it kind of is. It's like, especially if the guy's a provider, that means that the woman now doesn't have to be alone. She can depend on him. He can protect her. He can provide for her. He can do all of these things for her. So it's more like this rescuing. My prince has come. For a man, it is taking on a massive responsibility. Again, this is my opinion from the things that I've heard. So it's not that he doesn't love her. It's not that he's not enjoying her as well. But it comes with a massive, massive responsibility. If you ever, Antonio says he wants to make sure she ain't cray cray. Thank you for your honesty, okay? Because that's kind of what I was going to say low key too. So, and for you, I think you might have just jumped in. So she said it was set up front, and it wasn't until after the engagement, after he put a ring on her finger, that she said he switched it up and then asked to have kids. But yeah, so there's absolutely nothing better than taking your time and getting to know a person. And I had this argument on a former live stream with my male guests. I said, you might say you knew you wanted to marry her on the first, the first time you saw her, but I don't think that it's based on anything logical. To be perfectly honest, I really think that men are just drawn to certain women. They can think people are beautiful, but there's just certain women they are just drawn to, and they're like, that's going to be my wife. And they've never spoken to her. And obviously, from what you know about relationships, it's really important to be able to be on the same page with someone, have the same types of goals. You don't know how that person was brought up and things like that. So I don't know how much stock I put in the whole I knew. I would say it's probably better to say, you captured my attention the first time I saw you, or I was smitten with you the first time I saw you. But it takes time to get to know a person. The other thing is, yes, Will said the compromise has to be sincere. Yeah, from the previous question, I agree. The other thing is, she was saying, well, he's financially secure. That's her opinion, okay? The person submitting this. She said that he was financially stable. I don't know how she would know this unless he used those words, because somebody might have their debt paid off, or somebody might have a house paid off, or they might have a good paying job, but you don't know where their goals are. They might have said, I want to be at this particular place when I settle down, or I want to be able to do this because long term it's going to cost money having a wife and, future children. So there's a lot that goes into it. And sometimes the person just psychologically just has to prepare. Like, I'm really letting go of my single life. I'm letting go of, like we said with the mom and selfish thing. I can't be a selfish guy anymore. I'm going to always have to put my family first, even though it's a future family. So that's a very sobering thing to have to take in. And like I said, he probably wanted to get some affairs in order and get things together. So a lot of it goes into it. I wouldn't read too deeply, and I wouldn't make him out to be a bad guy for taking 3 years. I actually applaud him for taking his time. Okay, question number 5. I met someone that says he doesn't have any social media on any platform. No Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, nothing. Not too old, not too young, still in his early 30s. I find it hard to believe in some way because it feels like he's hiding his character. Most of us in our age, we use it for marketing and networking. Would you believe someone you just met intending to date him, but he states he doesn't have any social media at all? I kind of have to cringe a little when I read this. No shade, but I have to honestly cringe a little bit. Because social media should so not be an indicator of anything. It really shouldn't. There still are a lot of people who are not on it. Some people just don't like the responsibility of posting. Like, to some people, it's really daunting. Yes, some people just, create an account and they have 0 posts because they want to be able to look at stuff. But there are a lot of people who just feel like they don't have time for it. I actually think it would be kind of refreshing if I met a man who didn't have social media, because that's one less thing that, is going to be, competing for our time together. That's less access people have to him. So I would not go straight to, there's something sketchy. That's like, it's like a game almost. Yes, some people use it for marketing and stuff like that, but not everybody is using it for business. He said, sorry, because the comments are always delayed through the stream. But Antonio says he's financially stable and wanted to protect his money. That's why he didn't jump into marriage. I think marriage for many men end up being a liability at times, and that reason they are a little gun shy. It's a lot. It's a lot going into marriage. So I think that you should use discernment to guide you and not fears and insecurity. Because if you allow yourself to go down that rabbit hole of, oh, well, is he doing this to be shady? Or, oh, does he have something to hide? You're already putting that out there into the atmosphere. And the Bible says, whatever things are lovely, pure, think on these things. Of a good report, think of these things. All right. So it took 27 minutes and the bots are here. All right, guys, give me a quick second. Somebody feel free to tell me a joke in the comments while I go ahead and go to work on these bots. Oh, goodness. Do these even work? Do people ever, see this link and then click on it and go, ooh, and then they get somebody? I mean, does it even work? Okay. They said, I'm waiting on you. All right. I think I got them. Okay. He doesn't need validation from social media. Sorry, guys. My allergies. Okay. I think I got all the spam out. Oh, hey, Nina Rose. Thank you for joining. Nina Ross, thank you for joining in. I appreciate that. Okay. What was I saying? And as far as you worrying that he's being sketchy in some kind of way, I would wait until you have facts to validate that. Don't go off of feelings, because we can work ourselves up into a tizzy as women over something that we have no basis on. So that's just a knee-jerk reaction. And a lot of times we project onto people what we think. So if we choose to share so much of our life with the world, we think that's normal and everybody should think that way. And sometimes it's just people, different strokes for different folks. The bots want dating advice. Well, they should stop being so distracting so I could give it. All right, let's see. So number 6. All right, we should do like a little checker to see how long it takes every time for them to come, because I think they've been on the last 4 lives. Number 6, is it a red flag if a guy doesn't want to talk on the phone before meeting in person? 2 guys unmatched me on a dating app because I wanted to talk on the phone before meeting. I've also had guys claim they'd rather meet in person to get a better vibe instead of a phone call, which makes me think that they're relying on looks over personality. Laughable. So this is the thing, and this is not directed at this woman. I want to make this general statement. We have to really, 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 really make sure we don't have a spirit of desperation, because a lot of times the spirit of desperation will make us question our own common sense. It'll make us question our own guts, okay? And that's why I said this is not directed at this woman. I have been there, done that, so there's no room for me to judge. But this is just common sense, right? And because people act weird, it makes us doubt ourselves. So your gut told you that's weird to not talk on the phone before going out. That's just weird. And it is. So go with your gut. And let's make a habit, ladies, that when men walk out of our lives, we say, good riddance. Good riddance. Okay, I actually was going to go in a different order, but this is the perfect time to share this video with you guys. This is a perfect context, and you guys, I don't normally use this technology, so please let me know if you cannot hear it in the comments, because the way it's set up, I mean in the comments, in the audience, I can't hear it. Okay, if we can't talk, we're not talking. But I'm going to play it for you guys so that you can hear this guy what he has to say, because this just perfectly goes together. She said, and don't forget to say thank you. I love that. But we need to be able to let them go. And women of God, the Bible says that God is going to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or even think, we can even imagine. So if someone excuses himself out of your life, that just means it wasn't ordained. And we say, bye-bye. And we thank God that we didn't have our time wasted. Okay? Because our emotions can be fragile sometimes. But y'all, listen to this man. Tell me in the comments right away if you can hear, okay?
You know, I get a lot of questions about how can he just walk away and leave and start a new family, get married, have children. And I was one of those guys that walked away from relationships. But take it from me, this is my reason why. A lot of times the woman that I was with was too much for me. She had too many, her morals, she had morals, she had character and integrity. I didn't have any of that. I didn't have a relationship with God. I didn't believe in God for a long time. So it was easy for me to just pick up and go. And I also relied more on my childhood instincts, my survival instincts. When I felt like you were getting too close to me and I wasn't the guy that you originally met, I would start ghosting and disappear, running away, hiding. I become quiet or become silent. Now, the reason why I would move away, like I said, you were too much for me. You have morals, integrity, character. You wanted more than I wanted out of life. You wanted more than I thought I can possibly provide for you in life. It may not have been that much, but I just didn't think that deep enough inside myself to say, okay, I can be still. I can do this. I can do this for. I couldn't. It was always flight for me. It was always, I'm out of here. But the reason why I chose another woman or to go start over, because she was the path of least resistance. I didn't want anybody to challenge me. I didn't want anybody to question me. I wanted to come and go as I pleased. And I found women that allowed me to do that. They were easy to please. They were easy to talk to. They wouldn't question me. If I left the house just like leaving, when I got ready to leave, she would question me. She would text, and I would be so angry and mean to her that she wouldn't text or anything or say anything anymore about that. And so I would keep her at a minimum. I would keep her under control. I would keep her not knowing. I would keep her unaware, which was very disrespectful. It was very rude. It was very cruel. But don't think just because a man leaves you and he starts another relationship or has a baby or even gets married, don't think that they're doing it because she's better than you. That's what a lot of y'all think that. That's not necessarily true. And in most cases, we do that. I did. I left because she was less than you. And you were more than I was. So I wanted somebody that was less than me, somebody I can control, somebody I can dominate, somebody I can do what I wanted to do with, somebody I can go and come and go with, you know. But that wasn't nice. That wasn't fair. It was real sick of me, and that's the way I thought for a very long time. It was easy for me to get women, but it was hard for me to keep women. I didn't have longevity, and I didn't have staying power. I told you, I was a piece of shit for a long time, and I have to admit those things. I'm on this journey. God put me on this journey. I didn't ever plan to talk about my narcissism. I didn't plan to talk about my weaknesses. I didn't plan to talk about how inept I was. I woke up one day last summer, and it happened. So I didn't even ask for it, but I kept my soul open. I kept my spirits open. And I start living a better life, start being nice to people, start being nice to myself, my kids and friends. And so my spirit and soul was open to the blessings, and that's how I received them. When I was mean, angry, disrespectful, dysfunctional, pissed off all the time, rude, my spirit and my soul was closed off. So just because a person leaves you for somebody else doesn't make it seem like, doesn't mean that they're better than you. Have a good day.
So I love the fact that he was honest. I really love the fact that he was honest. And I know the knee-jerk reaction is to say that, oh, men are pieces of crap and all this stuff. Understand that hurt people hurt people. And one of the things that I really cannot press enough upon people is to not allow your heart to feel judgment. Don't allow your heart to feel bitterness. Don't let your heart feel anger. Chemically, yes, I'm telling you a lot of stuff about scripture, but science is showing that you physically damage yourself when you go through negative emotions. I'm not going to get into detail, but it's mind-blowing. You start learning about neuroscience. That's why they say forgiveness is more for you than the other person, because literally it can form something in you that can lead to ulcers, cancers. It's just ridiculous. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Probably my most generous donation so far. So thank you so much, Reese. Really appreciate that. And so we have to stop looking at men like villains and looking at them as victims. Just because I see him as a victim, though, does not mean I need to open a pound. Okay? I don't need to let in all the stray puppies. I just can be loving. I can just see them and say, and empathize and now pray for that person instead of being angry. Just like when that person leaves your life. Thank you that he left instead of that jerk. I can't believe he walked away. You don't know what bullets you dodged, okay? God is working, and sometimes it's angels working on your behalf, and maybe the angel is the reason that guy got pushed out. He doesn't even know why he left. Thank you, Christine. You guys, I really appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's really cute with the little emojis. So I'm going to unpack what he said, but I want to say this really quick about the question about not meeting in person. I had a guy say that he didn't like to talk over the phone. He'd rather go in person because he felt more confident that way. But honestly, I think that for a lot of people who either lack confidence, they think that they can compensate for an ability to communicate with being physical. If you're really mesmerized by his looks and he's touching your back and he's making jokes and he's doing things, it kind of like, it's like shiny thing. Look over here. You ever hung out with somebody and you notice that you've never had a serious conversation? Thank you, Christine. I really appreciate that. I remember this guy and we would have the most amazing conversations over the phone. And then we get in person and he literally only wanted to make out every single time. And I'm like, dang. And I realized if I ever want to get to know him, we just have to talk on the phone because he couldn't control himself. And so this is how you start to weed out people who are intentional. Back in the day, people used to sit up on the phone, twisting that little phone cord, all those little memes of people all over the house just talking on that phone. You hang up. No, you hang up on 3 hang up. Because you were actually trying to bond emotionally. Okay? So that's a huge red flag. And a lot of times, they just want the chemistry. For me, a man, it's like an honor for a guy to meet me in person. I'm just be direct. If you can't stimulate me over the phone, I don't care how much you stimulate me in person. But let me get into my notes that I took, okay? Don't be hurt that he leaves, right? So he said that she often had greater morals, integrity, and character. Can't even read my own chicken scratch. So he thought that she was better than him in those areas. And he gracefully, well, maybe not gracefully, bowed out. Okay, so that's the first thing. He's admitting that. Second thing is, he said when she started discovering who he was. So when you spend a lot of time and you spend a lot of time talking, things start to be revealed, okay? That's why a lot of times guys want to distract you. Let's just buy you a lot of trinkets. Let's buy you a lot of things and keep you physically active so that you don't start to notice things. That's why it's important to take your time, slow down, pump the brakes, even on kissing and fondling and all that, okay? Even if you don't go all the way to 10, the third base, just slow down so you could see him in different environments. Now that I've started to slow down, I've implemented a 90-day probationary period, okay? 90-day discovery phase, rather. And I remember getting to meet someone, and it was amazing at the beginning. Amazing. And I remember marking my calendar what the 90-day mark was. And it was so funny because it was barely 30 days when I felt like I had a good enough picture of him to know that I didn't want to be with him. Now imagine if I had jumped in the bed with him, or imagine I had started making out with him, or imagine we started doing all these really, really fun activities together. I might not have been had a chance to really get to know him. And that's how you look up and it's been 6 months, 9 months, a year, and now you're breaking it off. Well, you could have found that out if you just slowed down. We worry so much about body counts when it comes to sex, but sometimes our emotional body counts are heavy too. You invest and then it ends. You invest and then it ends. You invest and it ends. And that's really traumatizing. It's like we're practicing miniature divorces. And then we finally do commit to somebody and it's so easy to jump ship the minute something goes wrong. Why not stay in the friend zone a little bit intentionally, not punishing each other, but why not stay in the friend zone just a little bit to see if you even are friends? I just noticed, you guys, that only half of you on this thing have smashed that like button. So I'm going to need you guys to go ahead, please, and hit that like button so that YouTube knows you guys actually are enjoying this and it's not just a bunch of bots in here, okay? What is third base? Third base is physical intimacy, going all the way. All right, so please, thank you. A bunch of you guys just hit that. If you guys could just smash that now. If you're on a mobile device, you're going to have to close out of the chat so you can even get to the thumbs up. But smash that because it lets YouTube know to push this out to more people. So that's huge. That's a huge blessing for me if you guys can do that, okay? The other thing he said that the other woman was easier. So a lot of times your ego gets crushed and you start to doubt your self-worth and you feel like you're not good enough. He's saying it's the opposite. You had too much self-esteem and he couldn't get away with stuff. So he wanted to be with someone who would not check him. He also mentioned that when she would question him and say common sense things that she had every right to ask as his girlfriend, he would snap at her. Thank you. We're almost there. 7 more people are holding out on me, though, on those likes. He said he would snap at her until she learned to be quiet. Y'all, I did a post a while back saying 7 things you should demand in a relationship. If somebody is not kind to you, it's become too modern to yell at people and considered too okay and mainstream to yell at people and curse each other out. That should never be happening. Never. Not one time. To me, cursing me out, screaming at me is the same as punching. I know it's a dramatic statement. I don't mean it's the same as it's weighed the same, but it's the same as in deal breaker for me. You do that one time, I'm done. That means you don't have self-control. I shouldn't be screaming at you. You shouldn't be screaming at me. We should not be using profanity at each other. We should have enough big boy and big girl words that we can express ourselves. And if we feel that we have too much emotion happening, we should have the respect to say, you know what? I can't speak right now. I need to get my emotions under control. Let me go for a walk. Let me go, drink some water. Let me go pray. Let me go listen to worship music, whatever. And the other person respects you to say, okay, take your beat. We should be able to speak to each other calmly. All right, so let's get back to number 7. How are we doing on time? Okay, we got 15 minutes left. All right, so number 7. Okay, the first few dates, the guy seems great, but at the end of the day, he wants to take things slow and be friends first. Some call it go with the flow, but from my experience, it flows nowhere into a committed relationship. Although the guy says he wants to be friends first and take it slow, the part that's misleading is sometimes he'll lean in for a kiss. Obviously, I pull away because my first thought is, this person just told me he wants to be friends first, so why is he trying to kiss me romantically? He wants to slow down the commitment. All right. So you know how when you're learning about spelling and reading, there's silent letters like hallelujah. There's a few letters in there that are silent. Yeah, the commitment is silent. When men say I want to go slow, it's I want to go slow for commitment, but I want to go at full speed at getting the perks. So just remember, commitment is silent for most men. So listen for it. I want to go slow on the commitment, but I want to move forward with the perks, especially physical intimacy. Okay. And she said, did I kill the moment because I wanted clarity before he puts his tongue down my throat? You did kill the moment, girl. You absolutely killed it. You killed his moment. But who cares? Who cares if you thwarted his plan? And you shouldn't even want that moment to have happened. I'm not fussing at you, but I'm saying, even if you killed that moment, good. Good. He doesn't deserve to feel your soft, supple lips. I'm assuming they're moisturized, ma'am. Okay? So good. That's why I say we have to make sure we don't have a spirit of desperation, because a spirit of desperation will obsess on the fact that, oh man, I would have gotten a kiss, but I didn't. No, you almost kissed a frog. All right? But if you have that awesome life that you love, you say, oh, thank God we got this dud out of the way. Now let me go back to doing what I was doing at home and being productive, okay? You don't cry over the fact that the date didn't go anywhere. Oh my God, I thought this could be the one. No, because 90-day discovery phase anyway, you're not even 30 days in if you're just a couple dates in, okay? All righty. How are you guys doing over there? Thanks again for those of you who did the super chats. I appreciate that. What is for you is for you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And if God be for us, who could be against us? Occur. All right, number 8. For online dating apps, how long after talking online should a guy ask to exchange number or a girl offer her number? Some guys don't even ask a girl for her number. He just gives his out. How long after the numbers are exchanged should a guy ask a girl out? I catch myself talking to a guy indefinitely for months and he still hasn't asked for my number or a date. What time frame is best to determine if he's wasting my time? My interest will fizzle out if it takes too long to meet in real life. Y'all, I cannot stress this enough. Let me get real close to the microphone. He makes the moves, but you control the speed. Okay? So, masculine energy initiates. He asks for the phone number. He gives you his. He makes the phone calls. He asks you out. He tries to initiate sex. He asks you to marry him. Will my man card be taken if I'm watching this and football? I love it. You don't need audio for football. So eat your bag of chips and listen to this and feed your soul. You're an amazing multitasker if you can do both. So here's the thing. Even though they are bringing things to the table, you don't have to make yourself available at the table. Let me say that again in case anyone missed that. Maybe someone's watching football. Just because he brings something to the table doesn't mean you have to show up to the table or be available at the table every time he approaches. Y'all are making me feel good that you're still on even though the game is on, because I thought it was going to be all chicks today, so thank you. Okay? So let's just say somebody brings a bag of crap to the table. Are you going to pop up to the table? No. You got to see what they're bringing. This is why I say in my course that I did, always have your expectations and your standards before the guy comes in. And this is, I'm not fussing at her because she's asking this and I'm telling her, before you meet the guy, have your standard. I feel like we doubt ourselves so much as women because what we do is we try something and then if it doesn't seem to work in our favor, we assume that we messed up. It's like science. And you're not factoring in all of the factors. Maybe there was wind when you took this experiment. Maybe the sun was too hot when you took this experiment. And you're assuming because of what happened that this is the reason why. X plus Y equals Z. But it might be because of a factor. So you might have been doing something perfectly normal, but the guy was a douchebag. Okay? The guy was playing around. He wasn't really interested in you. You were like the 5th one on his rotation. So he wasn't circling around quickly. If you don't feel like he's meeting your need, you're the one who can answer this question. If you don't feel like he's calling enough, move on, move around, and don't ask for closure. My God, please. When you value yourself and you value your time, you don't give a darn why they're doing what they're doing. You just care that they're doing what they're doing, and then you move forward. He said, that's right. The dude just wants a chat buddy. If he doesn't ask you out, red flag. Yes. So what should the standard be when exchanging numbers? So here's the thing. I used to be plagued by fear. And so I hated giving my phone number out to men. The reason why I hated giving my phone number out to men was because I didn't have boundaries. I didn't know how to say I wasn't interested. I didn't know how to say I don't want to continue talking. So for me, staying on the app longer made me feel safer because I didn't have to deal with that. I could just kind of like connect with them, and I felt like, whoa, they kind of just went into a black hole. But once I got over that fear, I actually wanted to exchange information right away. Now, the only exception would be is if the app itself had like really high-tech communication. So there's one app that's really good. You can video chat on there. You can have a conversation, but it really just depends on how you're comfortable. To me, I'm kind of contradicting myself, so I want to just think before I'm trying to say this. I want to get somewhat of an idea of who this guy is before I get my phone number out, especially for me because I'm in the public and I don't need 1,000 people having my phone number. But when I was on dating apps, but I do want to have a little bit of a feel for a person. And I'm very good at assessing pretty quickly if there's somebody that I would even want to talk to on a regular basis. Most people will show their cards on the first call. And I really like to have a video chat because obviously it's an app, so you're trying to gauge if you're even attracted to that person. So for me, I typically do the video chat test first. Depending on how that goes, I'm ready to exchange your phone number. So I would say after the first online conversation, I would think it would be appropriate to ask for that number. But I know some women are very hesitant to do that, to give out their phone number. But here's the thing. I think it's more important about the consistency of the communication. And if you're a guy asking this question, I would just put it out there. I would simply say, hey, I'm ready to take this offline, but we'll go at your pace. That way she doesn't feel pressured, but she also knows you've taken the initiative. That way it'll cover you on both ends. Because some women are like, dang, you didn't ask for the number soon enough. And the other ones are like, my God, chill out. You're asking too fast. So that's why I say just put it out there. Hey, I'm interested in you. I would love to take this thing offline. Maybe even meet in person, but we'll go at the speed that you're comfortable with. Would you prefer to stay on this app for a while? Would you like to exchange numbers? How do you want it to go? And now you can't lose. As a woman, just remember you have full control. And if you don't like something, deuce it. Or just give him less and less energy. What did he say? Wait, shouldn't there be some communication about the standard? I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say the standard because you kind of want to let a person do what he wants to do. I wouldn't say the woman should state it. I wouldn't say that the woman should state what the standard is. I think that the man should take the lead and the woman should see if it works for her. All right, we got more bots. Excuse me, guys. All right, let me go to work. Report them and hide them. Okay. They got in 3 before I could do it. It can also be unfair for a man to spend a lot of time chatting on the app just to be rejected later. I'm also a guy. I don't think that it's, but what's the difference if you chatted on the app and you're rejected later, or you chatted on the phone and you got rejected later? Help me make that make sense, champion. What's the difference between getting rejected after only being on the app versus rejected with the phone number? Because she's still the same person behind it. So I just don't understand that. Alex said when I was on dating sites, I'd get the number ASAP if I felt a connection, started texting and set up a date. I'm not a huge phone guy since I'm on conference calls for a lot for work, but I do make an effort. So let me know you guys' thoughts. But remember, you guys, you set the pace. So if really get in tune with yourself and see what you like. If you don't like it, move around and don't keep open for them. If you don't like it and they don't press you out the gate, move around. Because this is why so many men give really half-hearted effort and they can keep dipping back in whenever they feel like it, whenever they're bored, whenever their first choice person doesn't give them attention. Ladies, if you've ever experienced a man who's really genuinely interested in you, there's no question, okay? None. All right. Hey, Minnie Spears, welcome, welcome. All right, so we're going to move on to number 9. Thank you guys for getting those likes up. I appreciate that. Number 9, what are your thoughts on dating someone younger? Honestly, I don't have a ton. Organic meats, those are amazing if you can. But I don't live in an area where there are, like, I could count on one hand how many black people are in my city. Like, it's not good for me. And so since I'm into black guys, like I don't get to organically meet people. So the most organic I'll get is probably like meeting someone through the internet, doing collaborations or something like that. But that is a luxury, I feel. Yeah, Tabby, I think that's awesome. It's like movie style, bump into them in the farmer's market, you know? But number 9, what are your thoughts on dating a younger man? I would just worry depending on his age. Like if he's in his 20s, a lot of guys in their 20s have not learned a lot of self-control. A lot of guys who are older still haven't either, but it's just way worse in their 20s, especially because their hormones are raging even more. I would just be concerned if he was matured, but I don't think that age is something that cannot be overcome, but I also think that life experience is something that cannot be overcome. And a lot of times I'll get these young guys who are like in their 20s, or 30s, and they try to hit on me. And I'm like, you're closer in age than my son. But they try to say, age isn't anything but a number. So I say to them, okay, let's say, how old are you? 29? Okay, you're 29. How were you at 19? Is there no difference between who you were at 19, not your character and your morals, but like who you were at 19 versus 29? And then they're like, oh yeah, I've matured a lot since then. So time really, really, really develops you. You just experience more. You have a lot more patience typically. You can't, you just can't put a value on that. So I try not to go too far one way or the other because I want to kind of be in that same lane of life experience. My ex-husband was 14 and a half years older than me. And so neither of us knew about the age gap when we started interacting. And then at that point it was too late because we were both smitten. But there definitely was a difference. He was done doing the whole I gotta be seen out in public type of thing. He started really, really early, like at 17, just going out and beyond the town. And then for me, I was like super sheltered. So I was like, woo, I want to be seen. So there was that. And then also I just really didn't know who I was. He had taken the time to really figure out who he was and just was honest with himself. So there's a lot of difference. There's a lot of difference. Let's see. I'd always ask if they're, he's the other question. I'd always ask if they were comfortable chatting offline, getting their numbers. More times or not, I would get their number. If not, we would chat a bit longer and nothing came of it. So yeah, I'm still wondering though, what's the difference between her moving on without giving the phone number versus her moving on with the phone number. Okay, number 10. Someone submitted a question, by the way, and I followed up. I asked a follow-up question today, and I didn't get it back. So if you did ask a question and you didn't get it answered tonight, that's why. So once I get the answer from you as to what you mean, I can add it to next week's show. Next question, can a couple heal together while in a relationship, or should they heal first and then begin dating? Honestly, if they're already together, I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, you need to break up unless you guys are in drastically different positions. But if you both realize that you're both struggling and you both at the same time on your own want to get help, that's amazing. And you can grow together. But I don't think I've ever really seen that at the same time. Usually the woman realizes that she needs to get some help inside, do some inner work, or the man decides, and then they get resentful because the other person isn't growing. And so I would say if you're both wanting to work on it at the same time, then go for it and stay together. But yeah, that could be tough trying to do that if one of you guys is not on board. Does that make sense? All right, so there was a video that was sent to me. Let me go ahead and take this off because this is the bonus question. Healing together can create codependency. Ooh, that's a good point, Antonio. Yeah. Sometimes I think, actually looking at your point, I think if I had to pick one or the other, if I had to, like gun to my head, I had to pick one, I would say apart. Even if it was like, let's take 6 months off to be apart, not date other people, but just be apart. Sometimes being in your aloneness is where you have massive breakthroughs. So it's like, that was a weird example. I was going to say it's like trying to take a shower, but you don't take all your clothes off. Like you just can't get to all of the parts. I don't think it fits exactly, but y'all know I love an analogy. It's just easier to do when you can get all the way naked and really figure out what's what. And sometimes you can't get all the way naked emotionally because you still have your security blanket there. Okay, so there was a video. I do not want to play it on my channel. There was a person who makes content who gets people very in their feelings. And he said that if women don't want sex, they shouldn't accept a date after 5 p.m. He then contrasted and said, if they don't want sex, then they should have a date from basically that ends before 5 if they just want platonic relationships. So my first reaction was, I didn't know the opposite of not wanting to have sex with a guy equals platonic. To me, platonic means I don't have romantic feelings. So somebody can have romantic feelings and want to be intimate eventually, but not be ready today. So I don't know why that was so funny to me. Minnie Spears says, I'm at work till 5. Like, what are we doing? Who's going out at 12 in the afternoon? I'm sorry. I don't know why that was so funny to me. Yeah, Yeah, so it would have to be like a Saturday or Sunday date, exactly. But I just think that's so silly. Like people make it seem like the only thing that's normal is knocking boots. That's what she says. Sheesh, 5 o'clock, I'm working. People make it seem like the only thing that's normal is knocking boots, and if not, you're like some weird weirdo who should live in Weirdoville. And it's like, why can't we just get to know each other? Now, what I will say is that, and I did a post about this. I actually got this from Kev Hicks, who I really, really enjoy. And we finally had a chance to do a collaboration. It was really cool. But what he said was, if you don't want to be intimate with a man, do not go with him somewhere where there's a bed or a couch, especially if there's a bed or a couch and privacy. Also, if it's early on, do not go on a date where alcohol is going to be consumed. Your guard goes down. Your response time goes down. Your inhibitions go down. And so when you are getting to know someone, you should be the most sober, literally and figuratively. So you want to be very aware. All of these things are things that I will say predators, okay? Because a predator is somebody who tries to manipulate you and doesn't let you consent overtly. They will try to do things. Like I had a guy who, he didn't want to feed me. Like we went out, but he wanted to share a plate. So it was like, and at first I didn't get it. And then he kept trying to push these giant margaritas. Like they literally were like bowl-sized margaritas and wanted to order more. And I was like, oh, he doesn't want too much food in my belly and he wants the liquor to hit faster so we could hurry up and leave. I'm like, I wasn't born yesterday. So it was a Mexican place. So I ordered beans. I ordered things that had like a lot of weight to it, that would compensate, counter the liquor, and didn't drink the second one. But yeah, it's just, you have to be your own protector, ladies. You have to be your own protector and look out for these red flags. He doesn't want to have conversations. He's trying to meet you at night. He's trying to liquor you up. He's trying to do all these things. She said, facts, when I drink, I'm like Little Caesars, hot and ready. I don't know what it is about like alcohol and aphrodisiac. I say I turn into like a hippie. I'm like, hey, love and peace, anything goes. Shared one entree. She said, that dude is a true savage. Surprised he even let me have the entree. Oh Lord. All right, guys. So that's what I have for you. Well, we did pretty good on time. I enjoy all the questions. You guys, it's so much easier answering questions than trying to come up with show stuff all the time. So I appreciate that. She said, that is why he is your ex. Hilarious. Oh, he didn't even get to become my boyfriend. He's a hot mess. But anyway, all right. So I'm gonna get back to the announcements that I started out with. I am going to be doing a Bible study. I know those of you guys who are not believers are like, ugh, all this Christian content, but my believers love it, so I'm gonna serve y'all. But make sure you're on my email list. You can grab the link in my description of this video or on my Instagram. You can get the link from my bio. But join my email list because that's how I'm going to be corresponding. I'm going to be doing a poll. I'm going to set up a little like Survey Monkey or whatever to let people tell me what day is best for them and then what time. And we're going to meet through Zoom. It's going to be super personal. We're going to be chatting with each other. It's going to be offline in that sense. It's not going to be on social media. It's just going to be on Zoom. And we're going to be just like breaking down the word, because if you know the word, you can be protected. And if somebody tries to tell you something that's not true, you're going to be on guard. Okay. There's something that I want to say, and I hope you guys stick around for this. A lot of times, okay, I talk about the Matrix, on my Instagram a lot. Not a lot, but often. And there is this message that we get. There's messaging that we get that's like considered modern and mainstream. And you know when something is not modern and mainstream because it'll get a visceral reaction on social media. Most people will laugh at it or think it's weird. But there is intention behind the mainstream messaging. It is all intentional. And it's not for your good. There's a Bible verse that says, it's Proverbs 14:12. There's a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Those who are in power understand that you can get to option A through a path, or you can get to option B through another path. And there is intention behind the messages. One of those things will lead to death. Now, you might say everybody dies. Duh. Everybody will die physically, But some people die spiritually before they even physically die. What do I mean by die spiritually? When you have anxiety, when you have depression, when you have overwhelming fear, if you have crippling financial struggles, okay? This life was meant to be enjoyed. As jacked up as it is, our birthright as believers was to have love and joy and peace and abundance and just beautiful, beautiful existence. And so if you are living in a situation that is less than that, you have been sold a bill of goods. And so for believers, we can peep game and see the types of things that are going to catch us up. I'll give you one, for example, that is considered hokey in today's standards. If you say you are trying to abstain, the majority of people will scoff at you. They will laugh at you. They will say, that's ridiculous. Why are you doing this? But as I mentioned, science is now backing why it's a smart thing to limit your sexual partners. Okay, you take faith out of it, you take God out of it. Science. And I went over that earlier. I'm not going to repeat myself. You can go back and watch. But look at all these people who are creating babies out of wedlock. Look at all these people who are having generational issues because we're raising boys without fathers in the home. We're raising daughters without fathers in the home. So many issues are happening. A lot of men are getting resentful because they're not with their baby's mother. And that baby's mother maybe is acting in a toxic way. She's not letting him see her. She's raking him through the coals when it comes to finances. And now he's building up resentment for women, period. Now he meets an amazing woman down the road and he's really scared. He's gun shy. Somebody commented even here today, said, you know, there's a lot to lose when it comes to marriage. And so it's freaking people out. But there is another way. It takes discipline, and you have to not be afraid of being different. He calls it a peculiar people. But I'm telling you guys, it is worth it. It's kind of like being in this little exclusive club. Hardly anyone knows about it, but it's amazing. But you got to work hard to climb a mountain and scale a fence and cross over a river to get there. But it is so, so worth it. So I want to unpack for the people who are interested in going deeper. I only begin to scratch the surface with my online stuff. But if you want to go deeper and you want to understand how to experience what this life is supposed to be like, it's not about doing without. Because that's what the enemy does. The enemy makes it seem like, oh, if you have this lifestyle, you're going to miss out. You're not going to have fun. You're going to suffer. You're going to deprive yourself. And that could not be further from the truth. If you guys could see my life, if I had a reality show that just live streamed my life, you would see how much joy we have in my home. I was at church today and my little girl just kept hugging on me. She's like, we look like weirdos, huh? I said, they're just going to see it. We love each other. She just kept wrapping her arms around me. She just loves me so much and I love her. Our home is full of peace. I get along with my ex-husband. I have a great relationship with my son. It is not designed to make you suffer, okay? You could still be cool and still have this abundant life. Alex says, if you're a grandfather or mother at the age of 35, oh no, something has gone horribly wrong twice. He said twice. Oh Lord, I just got that. All right, so y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not been subscribed, if you've not subscribed yet, please do that and hit that little bell, the icon with the bell, because it will notify you every time I go live, which is Sundays at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 8 Eastern. And when I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I drop content on Tuesdays, and that's my sign. The bots are back, so that means it's time to go. But y'all, I appreciated you. And the question that was submitted during the conversation, I didn't get to it, so make sure you submit it, please. Sorry. I'm trying to just report this one real quick so I can close out without it being there in the comments. Hang on, guys. Hide this user. Okay. All right. Or I should have hit remove, I guess. Anyways, thank you for sticking around. And if you want a chance to read my book, you can do so. I said it at the top of the hour, but I have a his and her book. I've been getting great feedback about it. First Date 101, A Man's Guide to Dating a Man. Get all the tips from guys directly on what they like and don't like on a first date and why women love assholes. Find out what it is psychologically that women love about the bad boys so that you can use it for good, okay? That's all I have. I'm going to stick around for just a second. You guys could say goodbye in the chat. But until next time, tell someone that you love them.